Beep, beep, boop. Beep, beep, boop. Beep, beep, boop. Beep, beep, boop. That's my testing song. But I still have to wait for the stream to start on my side. Okay. Well, so the power went out on campus today, and I got the text before I even went to campus. So I did my one class remotely from home, and now I'm looking at labs for next semester. So I just thought I'd stream and work at the same time. But basically, what I've been doing is I've taken stuff from this semester and it is now the example code, so the solutions are in there, and then I'm working on some new assignments. So for instance, um, when I write assignments, I try to have a lot of scaffolding, which means, let's go to a different one. Let's say with the pointers, we start off really simple, like just grab the size of these items, the data types. That way they can see how much space the data types take up. Then we can investigate addresses. And so we use the address of operator. And then we can look at dereferencing these pointers and assigning the pointer to different places. Happy early Thanksgiving. Yes, I'm looking forward to having a break next week, even though we still have classes on Monday and Tuesday, but I'm not assigning any work or have any due dates on Thanksgiving week because why would I do that? And everyone's going to be out of town, so I'm pretty much going to be sitting in the classroom by myself. All right, thanks for stopping in. So yeah, so we did the address of operator by itself. Now this is address of and also dereference, or sorry, no, just setting pointers and then checking addresses. And then this one's the one that actually you set a new pointer location and then you dereference it. And then I just, my plan for next semester is to do these in class that are the examples. So after doing dereferencing a normal like variable, this one would be for a class or a struct and how to dereference those. And then this one is a really basic linking. Yeah, so we have a course and then previous and next, just to try to introduce how you can point to other things. So my plan is to maybe do these examples in class instead, whereas they were assignments for this semester, and then also come up with some new assignments. So file I/O, I did the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, how do we output to a file? It's just like outputting with cout, except they just add out file after creating all of that. How do we read one word at a time and read I think I just had them read like 3 words in a row with the input stream operator. And then read 3 lines. Sorry for my white space. I don't know if that's annoying. I like knowing what my white space looks like. And then read the whole thing. So using getLine in a while loop to read everything out of a loop, out of a file. And then both reading and writing and some like basic parsing. So like here's one account, here's another account. And open that up. And so we'll do this in class now instead, where you read in the file has items in this order, you read that in, you make changes to it inside of the program, and then you save it back out at the end, just to kind of show like saving and loading. Then so far what I have here for like a new graded item, so again, starting off kind of simple again. This one is, hey, just load the show times from times.txt. We have a showtime struct. And then here's some data to read in. So we got to use get lines. We got to use, well, they can all be get lines, honestly, because these are all strings. But that would just be reading a bunch of stuff in. This one would be writing a bunch of stuff out in a summary. So you like ask the user, I have the solutions down there, but ask the user to enter how much they spent on different months, and then output it. And then I also have like test cases in here. So then this one's not very sophisticated, but was a simpler one. I have been putting test cases in a lot of these this semester. Um, yeah, this one I think I just put like here's the program, but then they need to implement the class, and it's going to be composition, so they need to create a track and an album class. This is further in the semester, so they should know how to create classes hopefully at this point. Oops. Kill, don't save. Let's just kill those. So basically, I know I do this to myself every semester where I want to like make all these changes. My hope is that I make all these changes before the next semester begins, so I don't have to spend time prepping new programming assignments. Here's another good, like, in-class one where I just go over a lot of the different string library stuff. And then this could be like, here's an example of a string replace, like search through a file, replace string A with string B, and then we could write something new in here. So my plan is to do this for all three of my classes too, but we'll see it. Well, maybe not data structures, but with my object-oriented class. So, yeah. I don't know, let's start pretty early. So I tend to do, like, we start with programs and variables as, like, second week, honestly, for this class, because first week is more like designing on paper and talking about what an object is, what a variable is, like, kind of a high-level overview. So here's just using some couts with your variables that are already set up here. Adding some numbers together. This one, they get arguments, so they don't have to worry about this part. Then I implement adding things together. This is like getting some amount of food at some price and this amount of it, and then it calculates the total. Then using some cin statements, using getLine, and calculating square feet of an apartment. So that's like the old set of whatever. So then, along the same kind of line, I'd create a graded program, and it's going to need test cases. I'm not going to write the instructions right now, but from this semester, I do have instructions files in the lab thing. So for instance, it's an org mode document, then I can export it to HTML. And then they can go along with this and read through it to get the instructions. And then because the way I have this all formatted, I have like the textbook over here as an org mode, and then I just link to lab/labname/instructions.org, and that throws everything together. But I'm going to clean things up a bit. And Okay, so thinking about, so starting off, again, some students will have had our previous like 101 level programming course, and some may have not, because you can get past it by having enough math. So you can't really make any assumptions about where they're starting from. If they've taken the 101 class, they know about printing in Python, and they can kind of translate from Python to C++. But if they haven't, then they need to learn about output from the very beginning. So I try to start it pretty easy. We might try to do something with just like, let's start with, see, if I use arguments, it's much easier for me to grade. But cin statements make more sense to them generally, like the program's already running, and it's going to ask you some questions. Oh, and I have a list of ideas somewhere. maybe on my courses homepage. Like, so recipes, I do quite a bit. We could just do some see-outs, like display some song lyrics to the screen. But I do want stuff with more variables. So maybe we could do a math thing. We could just do like fraction decimal would be pretty easy. So over here, let's do graded frac to decimal. And I'll just start with a little program. And I'll just start with this and then change it up. Okay, so the idea here would be the user would pass in numerator, turn off indent tabs mode, argument 2, denominator, and we don't really need string for this one, and this will be numerator. Oops. Oh gosh. Emacs gets slow when I'm using OBS at the same time. So those are the expected ones. Do that. We'll just do fraction to decimal program. And then the idea would be like we would have int numerator is, can I just do S2I? I don't remember. We'll test it out. It's denominator. Then we're also going to have to talk about casting to float. But for instance, we could just say numerator or fraction slash denominator. Open the E shell. F2D. So then it should say it's expecting numerator and denominator, and it's going to display that at the moment. Or we could display end line, dot, 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 end line, and then the denominator. Oh, oops. Fraction, end line. Yeah, so not the nicest way to write that out. But then they would need to say, for these early ones, I usually give them the variables or something to work with as at first. So you can put in like to do, calculate the decimal form of the fraction. And we could do like, also print out the percent version. And then it's say decimal, and at the moment it's going to be garbage. I'll throw that there. So it'll give us garbage, but we can only see the thing. I might just change this back to the simpler way to do it. Fraction, numerator, slash denominator. Or I could even put all the C outs below so that They're kind of together. So then I do that sort of thing and create, let's say, testcases.org. I'll just bring the shell over here. Where'd my shell go? There we go. So for instance, test, inputs, outputs, test one. Let's just write it this way. I'll do f2d.exe because I usually tell them how to build it as well, especially early on. So if we pass 1, 2, we're expecting fraction 1/2, decimal 0.5%. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that'd be fine. I could also, well, we're not covering IONIP quite at this point. Or we might be, but who knows? It depends on how I feel. And we have to have a few. Let's say 3/5. Let me calculate what 3/5 is going to be. It's 0.6. So then our fraction would show up as 3/5. Should I put the percent at the end? I mean, me. I guess it looks better that way. And then they have to know to put the percent at the end, or at least see it there. But yeah, they at least need a couple of test cases. At the moment it's gonna crash, or I don't know if it'll crash. Sometimes it will crash. It depends on the compiler, I guess. Yeah, it just kind of keeps on. So it's like, whatever. Well, I didn't actually do the division, so it's not doing it at this point. But that's fine for... I might make this the second one, just because it has... We will have to do a conversion, casting. Oh gosh, how do I get so many freaking files open at once? So we might go even simpler than that for the very first one. So maybe it could just be doing cout by itself, or cout with some variables. That way they don't get too scared right off the bat. Maybe we do the song lyrics or something. Or like a list of classes they're taking or something like that. I'll go ahead and include string, but like no arguments. And also, I need to get indent tabs mode to not be on by default. That's not the button I want. Okay. So we'll have them maybe enter their semester information. Like this will be spring 2026. Yep. Spring 2026. String name. Actually, let's do name, do season, int, year. What's a float that they can add, like their bank account balance? Their GPA? Yes, tell me your GPA. No. Current temperature? I don't know what it is right now, but to do update with your name, to do update with the current season, update with the current year. update with the current temperature outside. To do use cout statements to display your introduction. I don't know. And then usually if I write instruction output, I'll also give like example output as well. Uh, which again, I'm not doing that at this point because I'm just focusing on the code. And if I start writing instructions here and then just doing it as I do the code, then it's going to be inconsistent. And I want my documentation to be consistent across all of the things. So, yeah. Let's go to labs, like looking at control flow. So, example output, test cases, and then these are just like in the org doc being included, or whatever the syntax is. So there's the reference, um, there's example output, starter code. I could just also import the file, but this is outputting the starter code, so it's at least in the quote-unquote textbook, because the way this is all set up, I like to be able to link back to a previous course, and it's easier if we just put it all in one file, whether that's one PDF or one HTML file, so then they can also go in here. It'll load slowly because now it's a big file. In the meantime, oh, I didn't save the thing. We'll open this too. Everything is slow. Allow my scripts. These are my scripts. I think I only have one JavaScript. Well, I might have a couple. I don't. No, I don't have syntax highlighting as a JavaScript because when I export from Emacs with code, at least from Linux, it preserves my syntax highlighting. So down here, I have like some hint stuff as well, but I'm changing up how this works on the other thing, so I just use CSS and not JavaScript. But then this is just, CS200 level, really basic things. I try to put this up here as well, so like if they answered this and made themselves a quick reference, they could use their quick reference to answer to like complete all the labs. I'm hoping that with doing the labs, they also learn to take good notes and refer back to like their own documentation in addition to just doing the code, because I don't expect them to like have all the code memorized, um, especially like this class level. But anyway, yeah, I have the entire book in there. You can go to the different things. I have a PDF of it too. So we'll just do that. I'll enter in what I expect the introduction to be. So this one is using args. We'll do one more with cin statements. So, I mean, I guess I could enter in some data for like width and height, and then it'll get the area and the parameter, or perimeter. I could do a Mad Lib, but if it's smaller, it's easier to grade. um, so yeah, let's just keep it pretty simple. Rectangles. Still tabs mode. So, close that thing. We will create float width links to do ask user to enter the width and length of a rectangle. Sometimes I might need to even make this even more simple, like enter the width of a rectangle. Get, let's see. Or even, like, sometimes it's like, display a message asking the user to enter the width of a rectangle. Number 2, use the cin statement to get the width and store it in the corresponding variable. And then let's also have just a string. To do ask or display a message asking the user to enter the length of a rectangle. It really, some people do need very step-by-step, or at least at first. I don't always keep it like this granular. Display a message asking the user to enter the room name. To do, use a getLine statement to get the name and store it in the corresponding variable. And they'd also need a perimeter and area. Calculate the perimeter of the room and store in the corresponding variable. To do, use cout statements to display the room's name, its dimensions, and its area and perimeter. So really, like, I'm not writing any starter code for this one, but I'm giving them like each of the steps they need. And then they would turn that in. So maybe that's fine for this one. Git add. Variables, reprograms, I don't know. Okay. So after that, we usually, well, sometimes I go into branching next, sometimes I go into structs. I don't remember what I did this time, but structs was unit 4, so I think I did control flow as second. Because I do have, like, yeah, I have some loops and stuff in there. But I get into structs pretty early on just so they get used to, like, grouping data together and the idea of, like, kind of making a simple object. And especially before getting into, like, arrays and confusing them with arrays. But let's go into, I separated out all the files too, so. With our if statements, I start with, like, here's just an if statement, here's an else statement, and again, I have test cases. So to be consistent, I'll change these also to org files, which they can open with whatever, but I like making tables. But this will be something that expected outputs. I might not require them to write if it's passing or not, but I do like org mode tables because then I can just hit tab and it'll auto adjust the widths and all that. So, burp. Now it's a pretty table. But I don't know. I'll leave it as txt. That'll be something to update later. Especially these are like the stuff I'll do in class. So if statement, this one's like if the bank balance is less than 0, then display overdrawn, and you're displaying the bank balance either way, but just like one if statement. So this is going to be an example that they can check, but it would be something like if withdraw. Okay, we'd take balance is equal to balance minus withdraw. Oh wait, I didn't have a remaining variable for there. Display the balance. Let's say balance or original balance. Da 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 da. Sorry, that's the sound effects for cout statements. Withdrawing. Do I have iomanip? Yeah, I do. Okay. Withdraw amount. Remaining. Let's just add another end line. Remaining, I'll do semicolon. If remaining is less than 0, we'll also output overdrawn. Okay, so this is test case. Are you going to open? Okay. So then when I run it, it's going to say it needs such and such arguments. It wants the withdraw and the balance. Usually I also make these capitalized. Let's just put like starting balance withdraw amount. I don't know. Not that this matters. This is, again, the stuff I'll do in class, but I want it to be consistent. So we'll run that and we'll say we have a balance of $100 and we're going to withdraw 50, and then it just shows 50, or if we're withdrawing 200, then we'll show that. So that's the idea. I don't know, maybe I won't have that extra inline, who cares? But leave that. Do I have the solutions on all these? I do not. I should, because this is my private repository for the courses, so I usually put the solutions in here. Is this solution? It does have solutions. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is just grab these, switch, compound. I think shop was another thing, so I'll keep shop. Rename these to example. Oh, it's mad about something. What did it say? Oh, I meant to delete that too. So shop was what I had them do this semester. where they'd enter some balance and then an amount to withdraw. And then let's check compound. Okay, this is like nested. So really not a compound statement. It's more of a nested statement. Um, we'll change this to nested. Shop is pretty simple. I feel like we don't really need it as an example, but we could change this to compound. Um, and honestly, let's just grab this one and make a second version of it. And then in class, I would just show the other option. So then down here, if member and price is greater than 100, then do this thing. Let's get rid of these notes here. That's just so I don't accidentally include the solutions when I give them the lab code, but then sometimes I forget and I give them the solutions anyway. Okay, so we'll throw that in here. The other one is else if member. We'll talk about like how this would be false. Or we could like fill it out all the way, but so that sets the discount and then there's nothing else for that, so I think that's fine. With these examples, I might just remove the solution text also. But, I don't know. It's basically just going over a whole lot of stuff. So this was using a switch statement, so I'd need a graded one for switch. Let me remember, like, what the frick is the button for macros in Emacs? It's like something really simple, or there's F keys, but I don't remember what they are. I might have it on here. Macros, it's opening parentheses. So opening parentheses, select all. We're going to set indent tabs mode, and then white space cleanup, save, end macro, and do the same thing here. And so to run the macro, what was the thing? Control X, E, and there we go. Okay, so I can do that with everything now. Come watch me clean up my code. Okay, so for graded stuff, I want to have kind of the same ideas, but I could have fewer graded items and just, instead of having these all separate, I could have one thing together. So I might do one thing with this and either nested or compound, and then they can maybe choose, and then one with a switch statement. So the most common switch statement example that I usually see is just making a calculator. It's kind of hard to think of really good examples. Letter grade. Yeah, they could do that. Usually I do that for like if you can vote, and then it can also be combined with like, are you a citizen? But Okay, so maybe let's start with the switch statement. What was I gonna do? Graded 1, letter grades. So do we want arguments? We could do, like, have them enter letter grade A, and then it could, oh, hey, Flash Mob of One. Merry Christmas, it's still November. um, letter grade. A, B, C, D, or F. So we could get letter grade and then have them just create a switch statement. So, yeah. Christmas decorations are everywhere. I went to Dollar Tree yesterday, and like the really cheapo Christmas decorations reminded me of the stuff we had when I was a kid. Boop, boop. Let's see. So use switch statement. Look at value of letter grade. A display need 90% or above. I never know if, like, I would hope if they're in the class, they know about inclusive and exclusive ranges, but you never know. I don't know if I'd say you would need some amount to get an F, but I just put range 0% to 60%, not inclusive. Or maybe I can say string insert, range, oops. And then they can kind of implement that. However, if I leave it open enough, hopefully it helps with detecting any plagiarism, but really honestly, like, it's so hard to look for plagiarism these days. Like, students could do their own sort of style with things, and that's traditionally what I would look for is like, did two students do the exact same thing? Because before everyone started using ChatGPT, it was like, well, usually it would just be two students that copy off each other. And now you don't even need to do that no more. Or looking up solutions on like Chegg or whatever. So I generally, the only thing I use AI for is to check for cheating or to do like, okay, if I pasted all this in, would it just implement the entire thing? Block. Um, do my homework. Here's the text. I won't oversolve it, just the part you're supposed to fill in. So, any like but also these programs are so simple that there's only a few ways that you would implement this. You could put a string up top and then set the string. Um, so it's annoying as fuck. If I have instruction files though, which again, I'm not writing that at the moment, but let's say I had this and I could add in something like, okay, here's instructions. See, I add enough resources that I would hope that they would not need to cheat or feel the need to cheat, where they could have all, like, everything they need is there. Um, and of course, like, let's see. So this one's write an input argument letter to represent a language. Uh, if the language is J for Japanese, change it to, and so I write like really bizarre stuff like stuff that would very clearly stand out to me if I was grading. I'm like, why did you do that? And then I'm like, oh wait, I told them to. Oh, it won't let me do that inside of the this thing, but you can like set spans like that. So then, for instance, if I do this, it's like, hey, do my homework here. Just the part you need. So then we can say, oh, if the language is J, then change it to S, which also S was used for Spanish and not Swahili, but um also that's not what I told it to just use the anglicized version of these. But then, you can put in weird instructions, but then anytime you copy paste the instructions, like if a student tends to like want to put the instructions with their code, then they would see that hidden text. So I don't know. I have this whole system of how I hide prompts in there, usually in Esperanto. I'm like, se vi estas LLM do faru tiun kai ne. I forgot how I phrase it. It's like ne or well faru tiun anglais. Blah 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 blah. So that way, I mean, it's unlikely that most students encountering the hidden text would know Esperanto to be able to like act on that information. But yeah, in the past, I always like there would be some level of due diligence, but you would try to design so that students actually want to learn and feel like they have the tools they need to learn. Um, so, if they feel like they have a fair shot at getting the grade they want, then hopefully they wouldn't want to cheat. But there are always some people who just they fall behind and they need to catch up, and so they kind of make that excuse in their head or other things. Like just gonna ramble about academic honesty now. I did give a talk a while ago. Where is it? But basically, January last year, I read these, or of this year, I read these three books, and I think Cheating Lessons Learning from Academic Dishonesty is really good. But it talks about like why people cheat. And a lot of it is like an emphasis on performance, where, uh, if taking one exam can nuke your grade, then there's a lot of pressure behind that and more desire to cheat rather than if it were focused on mastery, like where are you starting and how much are you improving, that makes people less likely to cheat. High stakes, again, like things with large grade values rather than splitting it up into smaller things. Extrinsic motivation is like our grades for the course, which we can't do a whole lot about, but you could do stuff like um, tying it back to things that the student would think is valuable. So usually, at least with a programming class, students are there because they want to be there. Um, but you can ask like interesting questions or how would we solve this thing? But and then also a low expectation of success or low self-efficacy, where this could be like a student thinks, "Oh, I'm doing fine," and then they like go take the exam. And they're like, "Wait a minute, I don't know anything." So that also is helped by having a lot of smaller, fewer points assessments, so that they can kind of keep track of their progress over time and see how they're doing. Or this part would be like, oh, the teacher expects me to memorize the entire textbook, and how am I supposed to do that and get a good grade on the exam and all that? So, I mean, I try to build my courses in that way, but anyway, it's a hard problem. I try to make the courses reasonable, but I feel like there's always going to be some percent of people who are going to be plagiarizing. And what do you do? How stringent do you get? Do you start like, because my classes are also all high flex, because I want to have like non-traditional students. I want to make sure that they have the resources they need and are able to take the classes they need. But that also means like we're not doing stuff exclusively face to face, which means if you're not physically in class, you can't really monitor what they're doing. So it's like very much honor system. Anyway, that's my old stuff. Okay, go back to this semester, branching. So that's with the switch statement. And then something with nesting if statements or compounds. And then we go into more with compounds in the loops, especially with like input validation, because we'd use, oh, this one doesn't have the solutions either. Why do I have so many windows open? Go back here and grab the solutions. I have to rename these again. So this is example 1, 2, and 3. So with like input validation, we're going to use OR statements to make sure that their input is in the correct like range. We'll use my macro, save. Um, yeah, I'm just going to erase these real quick. So maybe I'll just do nested statements for the if statement part. What? Rectangle select. Thank you. Okay. I think these were old ones. These were these, I think, somewhere. I'll leave these. Well, that's why I have so many windows, is because I keep leaving them down there. Just close everything I'm not using. Um, okay, so something with nested if statements. Now to find all my Firefox windows too. Can vote. We could do. Mm, well, that's basically what I have for one of the examples right now. But yeah, maybe I'll move on to the next thing. So we got those. So branching, then looping. I also don't like putting numbers on these because I might rearrange them every semester. I know it makes it like slightly harder to go look for the file, but it's usually embedded in the documentation anyway. Whatever. Structs, bus. I probably, okay, no, this has the solution in it. I guess I could have changed my macro to do this. Here, let me do that indent tabs mode, white space clean up, end macro. Okay. So then maybe I can do that a lot faster. I hit I hit the wrong button. Nice. Okay. Right, macros. I need to copy that one from the other thing. Oh, wanna watch me stream while I clean up a bunch of files? I basically just open files and then hit run macro. Yeah, so this semester we just did um like the sorting algorithm like by itself and then like display it out. So next semester I'll probably have like a bigger program, like a slightly bigger program where they have to sort based on, I don't know, struct members or something. This is all older. I used to do this, but then I started putting like solution R uppercase, oh, recursive uppercase. So yeah, just change things here and there. I already looked at these, but some might have solution. They might have the solution text in there. I might need to erase it. I know I could also do a grep, but whatever. I basically have to like look at all these all the time anyway, so. But if I keep telling myself if I do a good job this time, then I don't have to keep doing this all the time, but then I always make updates. Eh, these are kind of big. I'm not gonna mess with those. Boop boop boo. Boop boop doo. Sometimes I kind of just combine these into one file. I know it's not standard, but it's just easier to grade. It's like put your functions at the top. Yeah, well, we'll leave that alone. Okay, did that have solutions? I used to keep maintain like scripts that would just help me grade things, but also writing a bunch of bash scripts to help me grade was very time intensive. So I am not doing that, but I don't know. I kind of just want to write like some GitLab CI stuff that will auto build and run their code and then tell me if it doesn't build. It just fails. The other part of coding in my courses, so these are like the weekly labs where they're pretty small. They learn um, kind of everything in a vacuum, one thing at a time. And then there's the project where they work together in a shared repository, which for CS200, we did something like kind of Facebook inspired. And then for 235, we did like a Amazon inspired one. Oh wait, I did want the solutions listed there because that's the graded item. But the other thing that I've been doing lately, I mean, we're not done with fall 2025 semester yet, but I've been preparing for next semester. But I've updated the book page, or the page that contains all of the course content. So now I have dark mode and light mode. I might make a medium mode, because I tend to prefer medium, like middle of the line. But this is printable. I have CSS for the printer. I still don't just that one. I thought I had it set to be 100% width when it's printing, but whatever. And then the topics, and then you can see the stuff. But then they could also access it from here. They can go to a specific week and view that week's stuff, or they can click on it here. I have links inside of the org mode document so that they can jump around. So for instance, these are I made a card class, and this just links to week 1 as like one of the headers. Then down here I have links to different locations in the book, and then I'll link to the Canvas assignments as well. And then ideally, like, I would only have to update this once per semester. And then like there's the introductions, or we could jump down to the lab. So this is still like this year's version of the lab, and I haven't done everything with the CSS yet. I haven't fixed this stuff yet. But that's what I've been building it out so that hopefully we can kind of navigate the course just from the textbook page. Canvas went down like one time this semester because of like AWS going down, and that's always kind of a pain in the butt. And like all my stuff is hosted outside of Canvas, so I could still email them like, here's the things, but it was like less obvious from the textbook this semester. So then it's in here, and then they have quick reference that they probably don't look at. But yeah, the different weeks and stuff. So I don't know. That's what I'm working on. Well, it's been about an hour. I'm gonna keep working on stuff. Let's see. I have office hours in 40 minutes anyway, so I need to maybe take a computer break before I have to hop on Zoom and answer any questions if anyone does log on. But that's a little bit of my lab preparation for one of my classes.